Okay, now let's go to our tissue. Yeah, tissue. So we say tissue is a group of pretty similar kind of cells. Yeah, cells is smallest, basic unit, yeah, life unit. Other things smaller than cells, they couldn't live in itself, but the cells they can. And also including some space, something between the cells and the cells. Together, thus form the tissues. Basically, different kind of tissues, they will working functionally together to perform special activities. So that's the tissue. Generally speaking, we have 4 big group, mainly part, different kind of tissue all over the body. Epithelial tissue, connective tissue, muscular tissue, and nerve tissue. So that's 4 group of tissue. So we say tissue is a group of the cells that together perform special function. And we will remember 4 mainly groups of the cells: epithelial tissue, and connective tissue, and muscular tissue, and nervous tissue. So that's the mainly, we have 4 different kind of tissues. Then we go to detail one by one. So generally speaking, epithelial tissue, it will cover superficial of the body and also cover inside the body hollow organs like a stomach, small intestine, large intestine, and also cover body cavity. So last week we talked about the body cavity. We have some big body cavity inside of the brain, inside the chest area, and in the abdominal area, we have big body cavity. And some ducts. Ducts usually connected from the glands, and also glands formed by epithelial tissue. So that's epithelial tissue go to different part of the bodies. Then we're talking about connective tissue. Connective tissue is mostly complicated tissues. They cover a lot of different kind of cells. And they go to like all over the body, anywhere they have connective tissue. So we still go to more detail later. And then muscular tissue. Muscular tissue, basically they performing movement. And the muscular tissue, they contains different kind of muscular tissue. First one, we're talking about skeletal muscular tissue. That's connected with the bone. That's performing our body movement. And we also have smooth tissue. Smooth tissue go to our internal organs, like stomach, small intestine, large intestine, like internal organs. And some muscular tissue specially form the heart tissue. Heart, cardiac means heart, muscular tissue. So basically, muscular tissue form 3 different aspected internal organs and also connected bones. Last one, we're talking about the nervous tissue. Nervous tissue form the brain and the spinal cord. Thus belong to central nervous systems, CNS. And they also form the nerve branch, peripheral nervous systems, PNS. And they have different cells. Basically, they have 2 different kinds of cells. So their functions transmit nerve impulses. So that's the general picture, like a 4 group of the tissue and where they located, We say our anatomy class, we are not go to the functions mainly. We mainly try to remember the name and the location. That's mainly our anatomy class. Function part we leaving. When we go to physiology class, then we talking about function. So right now, we try to remember name, location. Name, location. Where it located? What's the name? Where the location? So that's our anatomy. Then we still go to different kind of tissue, go to more detail one by one. Firstly, we're talking about epsilon tissue. That's the first one. So epsilon tissue, we say they can cover external bodies superficially, outside cover. And they also can cover some internal organs, inside cover. Like they cover the body cavities. They also can cover digestion tracts. And they also cover blood vessels. They also can cover some sensory organs, like the nose, like the nose, like the ear, like the ear. And also like a part of the eyes. So that's generally speaking, one big aspect of epsilon tissue, it is covering. They covering different part of the bodies. Second location, they form the grass. Inside the body, we have a lot of grass. They are forming by the epsilon tissue. So that's generally speaking, epsilon tissue, they go to 2 big categories and the location different part of the body. Mainly, the first one is covering function. Second one is formed grains. Then let's see what the epithelial tissue look like. We say the cells is smaller, the living unit. We couldn't see with our naked eyes. We must be use microscope, then we can see it. The group of the cells together looks a little bit bigger, but still very small. Still very small. So basically, we still need to use a microscope. Then we can see clearly, like cells connected to each other. But truly, when we're talking about epithelial tissue, we say it covers superficial the body, like our skin part. We can see the skin there. It's some epithelial tissue there. But we couldn't see that clear, like the picture here, because there's a lot of tissues there. So basically, picture here, we still need to see with microscope. And then we can see the cells and the cells grouped together. Yeah, pretty similar cells grouped together. That's form the epithelial tissue. So that's individually one cells here. You can see last week we talked about we have cover, plasma memory, and we have center is nucleus, and between the nucleus and the cell's memory, that's cytoplasma. So that's one single cell. Then cells and the cells connected to each other. That's form the tissue. That's form the tissue. Cells itself have different kind of shape. Here is a single cell. Then you can see other cells pretty similar. Then they form a group. That's still the tissue. And this one, we have multiple lengths in here. Cells connect each other. And some cells shape will be different. So just give you some basic idea. The different kind of cells, the different kind of shape. And they may have multiple lengths together. So that's basically epithelial tissue composed by the cells here. There's still some example here. There's still some example here. We say epithelial tissue will cover like a body cavity. So that's some cover here. Yeah, basically, it covers internally abdominal cavity and also form a cover for abdominal small intestine there. So basically, they are the same tissues. We just take a small pieces here and make it enlarging and enlarging. Yeah. How enlarging it is. Use the microscope, yeah, lighter kind of microscope. Then 243 times bigger. Then we see the cells. Yeah, then we see the cells. So the cells, that's the one cells here. That belong to epithelial cells. Then we still can see the plasma memory cover each of the cells. And on each of the cells, we have nucleus. And between the nucleus and the plasma memory, That's we call cytoplasma. Yeah, cytoplasma. Cytoplasma part mainly is the water, liquid. But still we have some small organ there we call organelles. So if they together, lot of single cells together, that's the tissue. Yeah, that's the tissue. So that's one truly axillary tissue here. And then they give you special kind of shape here. Another axillary tissue, yeah, another axillary tissue, column kind of shape, yeah, column kind of shape. It coming from small intestine. So here is our small intestine. Still take small pieces, make enlarging and enlarging on this side. This picture here is 630 times bigger. Then we can see the cells like this. So that's one cell. One nucleus is one cell. Yeah, most cells, they only have one nucleus. So that dark part is the nucleus. So that's make a small intestine. Yeah, small intestine. So give us some example for different idea what's the tissue look like. So that's the picture coming from vagina area and make it bigger. You can see from here to here, all the axillary cells. They got a lot of length here. So that's 400 times bigger. Then we can see. We are not talking about connective tissue yet, but basically connective tissue will under the axillary tissue. So that's 3 examples tell us where the axillary tissue located. They cover superficial the body and the internal organs. Another big category for axillary tissue, we say they form the glands. So one example here, coming from a thyroid gland. Still take small pieces and make it enlarging. So that's still 630 times bigger. Then we see the glands. So thyroid glands belong to endocrine systems. The endocrine systems glands. They don't have special like a duct for like relieve the secretion we call hormones. But truly they have a follicle in the center. Contains some hormones relieved to there. And then you can see the cells around it one by one. So that still belong to axillary cells. Thus we say axillary cells form the glands. This one is the endocrine glands. Then we go to exocrine glands. What means exocrine crime glands means they have special duct and then open maybe to superficial the body. So this one coming from the skin. Inside the skin, we have sweating glands. And still make enlarging 400 times bigger than we see the glands like this. So that's the cells connected each other. That's the epithelial cells. But in the center here, that's the duct. The duct will finally open to the superficial the skin. So that's the difference with underground glands. So that's another example here. Also, we can see different kind of glands. Their shape may be different. Some gland shape pretty similar, like directly through the duct open. And some glands, they have multiple kind of glands in there, then they open together. And some glands even span the kind of shape. So just give you different kind of idea. We have different kind of glands and even more complicated shape. So that's the glands, but all of them formed up by epithelial tissue. So one small one is one cells here and connected to each other, formed epithelial tissues. So that's epithelial tissue, the epithelial tissue. So generally speaking, for epithelial tissue, they connected with other part of the body by some basement membranes. So what means basement membranes? So that's a pretty thinner kind of length in there. And the upper part attacking epithelial tissue. Lower part mainly connective tissues. So epithelial tissues, they will have nervous support, but they don't have blood support. So blood support coming from basement membranes. So that's basically basement, the membranes function there. So we still go to a picture here. We can see, let it be clear. So this part is epithelial tissue part. That's the cells connected to another cells and the nucleus in the center. Then you can see the yellow color here. They directly go to between the cells and the cells go to epithelial tissue. And then under the epithelial tissue, we have two lines here. Belong to basement membrane. So basically they formed by two lengths here. And the blood vessels on the connective tissue here. That means blood vessels, blood supply coming from connective tissue and passing through the basement membrane, then supports the nutrition to epithelial tissue. So that's the whole picture, epithelial tissue. So when we go back, you still can find basement membrane like under the or connected with epithelial tissue. That's for the ground part they cover. And also, if we go to different part, like each of them, between the connective tissue, they still have like a basement membrane here. Yeah, they didn't special name it, but that should be. And this one, yeah, you can see more clear. That's belong to basement membrane. Yeah, basement membrane. Above is epithelial tissue, and then basement membrane. So this one you still can find. Yeah, that's the basement membrane line here. That's the basement membranes. So that's epithelial tissue. Yeah, that's epithelial tissue. So connective tissue, we say, is mostly like all over the body, everywhere, distributed tissue in the bodies. And they have more different kind of form. So that's connective tissue. Yeah, that's connective tissue. So basic function, yeah, basic function. We say we are not truly talking about function, but the basic function, like the name, connected, yeah, binding together, supports, and protections, and separate tissue with other tissues or organ with organs. And also they have transport functions, storage functions. So that's basic function. So we say our class, we are not focus on the function. We focus on the name and the location. So we say connective tissue more complicated. So generally speaking, we have 5 different types. These 5 different types, we have loosening connective tissue. We have dense connective tissue. Then we talk about what means loosening, what means dense. Cartilage belong to connective tissue. Bone, connective tissue. And we also have a special category, liquid connective tissue, including the blood and the liver. So that's together is connective tissue. So we have 5 different types of connective tissue. Then we go to first type, loosening connective tissue. Loosening connective tissue. What means loosening? So basically the fibers there is loosening. Like loosening fibers between the cells. That's why we call loosening connective tissue. In other words, in loosening connective tissue, we have a lot of space there. So we can see the picture here. Yeah, we can see the picture here. coming from different part that's still under the skin. We say under the epsilon tissue, that's connective tissue. And we're making enlarging here. You can see we have some cells there and some fabric. But the fabric is not connected so close to each other. So that means losing. Yeah, that means losing. So we have more example here. That's coming from the cover part of the fatty tissue there. So you can still see not too much fabric. Yeah, you are not necessary to remember everything detail here. Just like you more understanding for losing connective tissue, like what's it look like? What's it look like? So that's some examples. Then we're talking about the dense connective tissue. Compare with loose connective tissue. Dense connective tissue, they have more fabric. They don't have too many cells also. Mostly it's the fabric in there. That fabric, they may regular in there. They may irregular in there. And also they may have some elastic kind of connection in there. So that's the dense connective tissue. So still, you are not necessary to remember all detail here. Just give you idea, your understanding. That's dense connective tissue. If we're talking about regular, all the fabric go to the directions regularly. So these simple coming from the tendons and make enlarging, but truly only few cells here. Cells will have nucleus. So that's kind of nucleus inside the cells. And you can see between the cells and the cells, we have a lot of fabric. So that's one example here. Another example here, we're talking about the irregular dense connective tissue. Compare with last one. The fabric go to different direction here. So that's we say irregular connective tissue. They're in the different shape. Yeah, different shape. Then the third one still belong to dense connective tissue. We have elastic kind of connective tissue here. So that's the shape, elastic kind of connective tissue. So that's dense connective tissue. We have three forms. Then we go to the third category for the connective tissue is the cartilage. Cartilage itself, yeah, don't have blood vessels, don't have the nervous branch. So cartilage forms some part of the bodies, like on or outside top part of the nose, and form the shape of the ear. And inside the body, we still have some cartilage in there. So that's basically is the cartilage. So cartilage, we still have different kind of form. You're still not necessary to remember like a subcartilage here. So we have some clear kind of cartilage that's located. You're still not necessary to remember here. You just remember the big cartilage, where it's located. So that's including the nose, trachea, and the costal connections here. Yeah, so that's subcartilage. Hyaline cartilage. So that's the picture for hyaline cartilage. But we say you are not necessary to remember too detailed here. It's too many. It's too many. And also we have fibrocartilage. Yeah, fibrocartilage basically connect the bone and the bones. So that's like connected with the pupil bone and the pupil bone, and also like on the knee they form the disc, and also between the vertebrae they form the disc. So that's fibrocartilage. Yeah, fibrocartilage. So that's coming from the knee, some fibrocartilage. And elastic cartilage, they can form the shape, have some elastic kind of function there, like auto ear, That's elastic cartilage. So that's the picture for elastic cartilage. So still not necessary to remember subcategory. Yeah, we just try to remember big category. For connective tissue, we have 5 different types. Yeah, we have loosening connective tissue. We have dense connective tissue. We have cartilage. Yeah, we are not necessary to remember subcategory here. Yeah, we are not necessary to remember subcategory here. But truly, you know, we have 5 different types here. Then we talking about the bone tissue. Yeah, we go to the first category, bone tissue. So bone tissue form the bone. And the bone tissue, they have support our body, that's mainly function, but truly they have some other function. They can producing blood cells coming from red bone marrows. And we also have yellow bone marrow. That's the storage for some fatty. But we still say we are not focused on the functions. We still focus like the bone tissues. So bone tissues, bone, we have long bone, we have flat bone, we have irregular bone, we have short bone. Next class, we especially talking about different kind of bone. But bone tissue basically like this. Yeah, bone tissue basically like this. So that's the bone tissues. We go to more detail next class. Yeah. We don't go to too detail here, but just remember, bone tissue belong to connective tissue. Yeah, bone tissue belong to connective tissue. Then last part for connective tissue. Yeah, last part for connective tissue. We go to liquid connective tissue. Liquid connective tissue including blood, including the lymph. So blood circulation is kind of connections, blood and lymph. So the big difference on the blood, they have special cells like a red blood cell, and the white blood cell and the platelets. So that's the cells in the blood. And also have lot of liquid. And something solid in the liquid. So that's basically in the blood. Yeah, basically in the blood. There are a lot of things in the blood. And the lymph part, they just without the cells. The other part pretty similar with the blood. So they don't have red blood cell. They still have some white blood cell. So lymph's color is light bit yellow color. Okay, light bit yellow color. Blood color, everybody know that's red color because red blood cell inside. That's coming from the color redness. So that's blood and lymph belong to connective tissue. Blood circulation in the blood vessels, lymph circulation on the lymphocytes. That's the location. So that's blood tissue. We say we have different kind of cells, red blood cell, white blood cell, and the platelets. So that's all connective tissue. Yeah, connective tissue. Connective tissue a little bit complicated, but we take it a simple part. We just try to remember 5 categories. Connective tissue. Then we go to muscular tissue. Yeah, muscular tissue. So coming back, we have 4 different group of the tissue. Yeah, 4 group of different tissue. We finish axillary tissue. We finish connective tissue. Now we go to muscular tissue. Yeah, don't confuse it. Don't confuse it with big group with subgroup there. Yeah, in the axillary tissue, we don't remember subcategory and its category. Connective tissue, we need to remember 5 subcategories. And muscular tissue, we need to remember 3 subcategories. Skeletal tissue, smooth tissue, and cardiac muscular. Cardiac, that's medical words, heart. So now we are on the page, muscular tissue. So muscular tissue, we say we separate 3 groups. Skeletal muscular tissue attaching to the bone, a performing movement of the body, and maintenance or body like the shape. Cardiac muscular tissue, thus form the heart. It is involuntary movement. In other words, they got contractions itself. And similar like a smooth muscular tissue. They form internal some hollow organs, including stomach, intestine, bladder, also including blood vessels. So it is still involuntary kind of movement. So basically only skeletal tissue we can control. All the hard muscles tissue we couldn't control. Smooth muscles tissue we couldn't control. So that's the picture coming from skeletal muscles tissue. You can see the shape here. So that's nucleus, other part is muscular tissue. That's coming from the heart. Yeah, that's coming from the heart. So you can see the shape is different. Yeah. And that's coming from smooth muscles. Yeah, smooth muscles. The single cells, the shape will be different. So that's we have 3 different kind of muscular tissue. Okay, so that's we talking about muscular tissue. We have 3 different types. Then finally we coming to the nervous tissue. Nervous tissue form the nervous systems. So in the nervous tissue, we have 2 kind of cells mainly. Yeah, mainly we have 2 different kind of cells form the nervous tissue. One cell we call neurons. Also we call nervous cells. That's the mainly function kind of cells. And another cell we call neurogra. Sometimes we just simply call it Gra cells. That's basically perform function, protection, nourishing, and support the nervous cells. So what's they look like? Yeah, what's they look like? So this is the nervous cells. Yeah, this is nervous cells. You can see that's the cell body. But there are a little bit difference with other general cells. Usually they have 2 special parts. It's a long way part. They will go to connect with other cells. That part we call axon. And also we have a little bit smaller, like bunches here. We call dendrites. Yeah, dendrites. So that's something special for nervous cells. So nuclear, yeah, nuclear in the nervous cells, yeah, in the nervous cells. So that's for the nervous tissues. We only have 2 different kind of cells in there. We call nervous cells. So that's basically, yeah, that's basically for our tissues. So tissues, yeah, tissues, we have 4 different kind of type. Yeah, we have 4 different type of tissues or 4 group of tissues. So that's the epithelial tissue, cover superficial the body, inside like organs and the tubes and the formed growths. Connective tissue, we have 5 different kind of type. Loosen connective tissue, dense connective tissue, cartilage, bone tissue, and the liquid connective tissue. So that's we have 5 types. Then we have muscular. We have 3 different types muscular. We have cartilage muscular. We have cardiac muscular. We have smooth muscular. They go to special different part of the body. And then nerve tissues. Yeah, nerve tissues. We only have 2 different kind of cells from the nerve tissues. They both in the nerve systems. When we talking about the nerve systems, we still talking about more detail of it. So that's basically for today. Yeah, basically for today. we mainly talking about tissues.